Question: is non-duality the same as oneness in the other religious traditions? Well, that's a difficult question for me to answer because I don't know how all religious traditions define oneness or talk about oneness. And so what I can comment on is that you have to make a distinction between oneness and sameness, or oneness and undifferentiation. Because one of the, as I've explained in many of my non-duality videos, one of the common misinterpretations in the non-duality field is that as soon as we have differentiation, we have duality. And only the undifferentiated Brahman is non-dual. And as I've explained in several videos, this is just a misinterpretation. And if you look at it, the word oneness, it kind of implies that there's something that has come into oneness with something else. So it implies there's a differentiation. Because if there was no differentiation, why would you need to talk about oneness? If there's no differentiation, there is no separateness. So there's nothing that's different from oneness. And that's why what I'm trying to explain is that the misunderstanding about non-duality is that non-duality means non-duality. It's an alternative to a specific state of consciousness, an illusion, namely the duality consciousness, the illusion that we are separate beings. But overcoming duality does not mean that you go back into the undifferentiated Brahman or infinite awareness and disappear as an individual being. Overcoming duality means that you, as an individual being, go on a path where you become gradually more and more one with your higher self, with the ascended masters who created your higher self, and ultimately with the Creator who created this entire world of form. So there are levels of oneness. And the lowest level, oneness, is contrasted with separation. And as I've explained in several videos, it doesn't make sense to say that you are only a separate self and that you need to awaken from the illusion of separation and then you disappear. Because if there's only a separate self, how could the separate self awaken? How could the separate self come to say, oh, I see I'm a separate self and I don't really exist. Poof, you're gone. So what I'm saying is there has to be something that can awaken from separation. And that is what I call the conscious you. And the conscious you is an extension of your higher self, your I am presence, which exists in the spiritual realm. And the conscious you has been sent into physical embodiment on this very dense planet. You have taken on the identity, mental, emotional, and physical bodies in order to do something and experience something in this realm. And the purpose of this is the growth of the I am presence, the growth in its sense of self. So what I'm explaining is that you are created as an individual self, as a co-creator with God and with the Creator. And you are meant to gradually raise or expand or transcend your sense of self until you reach the Creator consciousness. That's our ultimate potential. But here on Earth, on this very dense planet, we have gone into what I call separation, the illusion of separation. And walking the spiritual path is a process of first reconnecting to our higher self. and realize we are not a separate being, we are a connected being. The conscious you has always been a connected being. It's only that when the conscious you sees through all these separate selves, through that perception filter, you see yourself as a separate being. So the first stage of the path is to start to question that illusion that you are a separate being. And then you connect to your higher self, and you gradually increase your sense of connection. It has to be gradual because you can't just switch from one to the other. So you gradually increase your sense of connection. And there comes a point where connection starts shifting into oneness. And then instead of feeling that, oh, I'm down here, my higher self is way up there in the spiritual realm, you realize that your higher self is all around you. You are inside, you are within the higher self, and you start experiencing more and more oneness with the higher self. And you can eventually reach the highest possible level of consciousness on earth, which means you can ascend from earth. And that's when the conscious you merges back into oneness with the higher self, with the I Am Presence. And from there, when you become an ascended master, you can then see that there are higher levels in the world of form, and you can attain oneness with the beings in those higher realms until you attain oneness with your Creator, and that's how you reach the Creator consciousness. So, a common definition of non-duality out there is that you overcome all sense of self, all differentiation. And as I explain in many of my non-duality videos, that's just a misinterpretation. You were not created as a being, a self-aware being, in order to, you were not created in illusion, and you were not created in order to awaken from illusion and disappear. You were given the gift of individual self-awareness as a point-like sense of self, and with the potential to expand that to the same level of consciousness as your Creator. And you do that by attaining oneness, first with your higher self, then with the Ascended Masters at a higher level, then with the Ascended Masters at an even higher level, leading all the way to the Creator. It's always about oneness with a higher level. And what has happened with many of these non-duality teachers that interpret it as any differentiation is duality, is that they are looking at the topic through the filter of the separate self. And therefore they are reasoning in a dualistic way. They're reasoning. It's correct, they're seeing there is a separate self that's unreal, it's an illusion. But then they are reasoning based on a dualistic mind that this means all self is an illusion, and therefore you are meant to attain a state of non-self, and that's non-duality, and that is what they would say is oneness. But oneness really is when the conscious you realizes, I am not a separate self, and I am not separated from my I Am Presence. I am the presence. That's oneness. And it's also a non-dual state of awareness, but you can actually achieve a non-dual state of awareness before you attain full oneness with your I Am Presence, because you can awaken from the illusion that you are a separate being. And then you have achieved a non-dual state of awareness. You become aware of what the duality consciousness is, how it works. And that's why I say in many of my videos that if you really want to grasp what non-duality is about, you have to look at the duality consciousness. You have to understand how it works. And if you skip that step, if you think you can just focus on this mythical non-dual state there, you are actually looking at non-duality through the filter of duality, and you are interpreting it in a dualistic way that doesn't lead to a non-dual state, it doesn't lead to oneness. It just keeps you trapped in this blind alley.